Welcome back to the LEC studio for our match of the day, Origen versus Misfits Gaming. Only one win is separating the teams in the standings, setting the stage for an explosive fight. And now, at the start of this week, you might have said, oh, this is the OG that beat G2. This is going to be a one-sided affair. But we saw the struggles of Origen yesterday, and we saw the strength of Misfits Gaming in their matchup as well. So tides have turned, I feel like, and now this one feels like it could be some even footing.
It feels like it's an unclear trajectory about both these teams. You know, how far will Misfits reach that potential that Hansama was just talking about? And are Origen actually the real deal? It felt like the schedule or strength of schedule kind of hid Origen, that they were facing a lot of bottom-tier teams, and then they had that swift, 2-0 against Schalke and G2, kind of in that 1-2 punch, and suddenly they were on everyone's radar.
Ooh, and it's just so hard to say. It's so hard to know exactly what's going to come through for each of these teams and what we can really learn from yesterday. Because for Misfits, they showed so much. And for Origen, they didn't get to play League of Legends yesterday. They were blasted out of the water right off the bat. But SK versus Misfits is the one that we have to talk about, because this is just a very different strategy coming out from Misfits in draft. You can see it now at the bottom of your screen. Frostrun, walk me through this one.
I mean, for me, we had some questions about what Moose would kind of bring back to the Misfits squad, and it felt like it was giving a lot of agency and a lot of power back into Soaz. For me, it was really his Jarvan pick and the power of the flex picks of the Cassiopeia and Jarvan in second rotation. You know, Hansama showing that he can play the AP mages in the bot lane. That was a surprise to everyone. And then Soaz taking a pick like Jarvan, maybe flexing into the jungle position, and then just smashing kids with it. And
it was such a good look. The Executioner callings early, shutting down the Vladimir on the top side of the map. Overall, Hansama playing mages, though, only his second mage game, had, of course, a Vladimir game back last year. Wasn't great, but the Cassio was a very different story, and now it feels like what was a Misfits lineup that we had kind of felt like it was figured out. You know, it felt like we knew exactly what they were going to do, that they were kind of scrambling for different options. It was kind of falling to pieces. Now has this new life breathed into it, and now there's so many more questions. How many mages can Hansama play? How far down does the flex picks go when it comes into this draft?
To me, it's what is the final form of Misfits? You know, again, just to repeat what Hansama had just said, he feels like in every single position, I think the community feels that as well, that there is that special something, that intangible factor, but we just haven't seen it yet. We do sound like a broken record. It's like, Misfits, they've got to carry through the bot lane. They need to find firepower down there. And yeah, Cassiopeia fits that role, but that shouldn't be where Misfits stall out. They should be able to carry through Soaz. They should be able to look to Febby as he returns to form. And they have such a cerebral jungle like Maxlor, who should be completely unlocked now that he has all of these superstars in every lane.
And that's kind of what Misfits fans are hoping for, but on the opposite side, OG, it's hard to know what to take from their loss yesterday against Fnatic. Obviously, the 5-game win streak cut down in an instant. And for me, this game was so one-sided that it's hard for me to imagine taking anything from this one. What do you think the Origen camp was thinking after a game like that?
For me, if I'm an Origen fan, I'm looking at Cold and basically all of the decisions and kind of the tempo that he sets. Now, every game usually is going to start with the mid-jungle priority, and if they're, have kill pressure, if they have push pressure, what they do with it. But it just feels like Origen really only live and die about what Cold is able to set up for his team. And so, when he feels stalled out like he was on the Nunu, suddenly they disappear. But if he grabs something like a Kayn, a Karthus, suddenly Origen looks worlds different.
And now we're going to find out, because the other thing is that if you're seeing this, then we have to assume that Misfits are seeing this as well, because Cold has been a big standout, was the guy that played the Gragas last week that looked so good, that looked so clean, was talking about, hey, solo queue junglers, kill steal with that R, use that Gragas cast, get that gold onto yourself. But Misfits, Maxlor has in the past been an incredible pace setter for this Misfits lineup, and trying to match Cold today is going to be an exciting matchup to look at.
And I feel like it means that it's going to be an incredibly dependent drafting game. Origen did pick blue side this time around, and so the questions for me are, with blue side, what is going to be the priority pick for Origen? What do they want? And I'm looking at two things. Either they want a flex pick, something like a Yasuo for the first pick, or they want a power pick for the bottom lane. They want to shove all of their firepower into Patrick's hands and go toe-to-toe with Hansama, as well as deny that pick power away from Hansama.
And I like that they're already banning the Jarvan away, not going to give that one over to Soaz, not going to risk the flex pick as well, and the Yasuo immediately banned out too. We've seen how powerful it can be in the hands of Nuke Duck. Maybe Patrick would play it as well. Galio now going to follow, so a lot of very powerful bans and a lot of very personal bans as well.
So the question then is, what do we do with the two big ADCs like the Draven and the Lucian? Are we going to let them through the draft to kind of have this trinity of Cassiopeia, although she's going to hit the ban bench, and then Lucian and Draven and see what's up for grabs? Or are they going to all take them off the board and maybe we end up with a, Urgot's left over, he's kind of the next one on the tier list, let's go ahead and pick it up?
And so many of the options for flex picks taken out. Galio, oddly, the only one where I don't feel like it would be flex, where it has just kind of taken up role in the bot lane as a support. See what Origen's final ban is going to be here, what else they want to limit from the pool. Now, interestingly enough, the Dravens, the Lucians, Draven now going to get banned right as I'm about to make the point, but normally we see Hansama's champion pool attacked much earlier, Origen saving it till a little bit later in the draft.
And if Lucian gets banned here, which he did, it feels like you do default to Urgot here unless Origen want to throw a wrench in everyone's expectations and grab something else, and it looks like it's going to be Karthus.
And Karthus so frequently the first ban on red side that we've seen over the last couple of days. This champion, of course, can be incredible, can be a flex pick. We've seen the impact that it can have, but we've also seen teams like G2 especially show us how to shut it down.
But it does mean that you need to have pushing priority lanes so you can protect the Karthus. We say it all the time, he is susceptible in those early lane ganks, especially when you have a weaker dueling jungle matchup, something like a Lee Sin, like a Jarvan, like an Olaf. So now it's a question, can Nukeduck, can Alphari protect Cold if he does end up with this Karthus pick?
Setting themselves up for lane priority. We'll keep an eye on it for now. The Urgot going to be the lock-in. The Alistar going to follow. So very powerful picks on the board. And I like Gorilla getting his hands on an aggressive playmaker. We saw Ignore with the Tom Kench last game. You know, I don't want to see picks like that in the hands of Gorilla. I want to see the aggressive movers, the shakers, the people who can start plays.
It's also a huge deny away from Mithy. Both these supports, Mithy and Gorilla, are known Alistar players.
Ooh, I like this one. Yorick now coming in as well. If you watched last game, you can see how the Urgot versus Yorick matchup tends to work out a lot of the times. This is, of course, the old Conqueror, but still incredibly powerful on this champion.
And the idea for Yorick versus Urgot is that Yorick's just going to outscale him in terms of the side lanes, whereas Urgot's going to bring a bit more team fight power just because anyone gets under that 25% threshold and you automatically delete them from the fight. So Origen already have a lot of pressure in side lanes post lane phase because they have Karthus and Yorick in tandem. Think about how devastating that is and how you deal with it, that they can attack you on so many places in the map.
Has to be frustrating. I have always hated playing against Karthus, and you have to feel like Misfits Gaming probably under the same impression. I wonder how they're going to battle this one out, though. They've shown us a support, they've shown us a top laner, potentially a flex, although we rarely see Urgot anywhere but the top lane. And now the Kaisa is going to get locked in, so we do have the hyper carry in the hands of Hans Sama. We'll have to make it through that early game, but has the Alistar to help him do so.
Curious what's going to be the pinch now. I expect it to be more ADCs. Possibly they look towards the mid lane, take away some of those power picks from Nukeduck. Nukeduck is looking for a strong blind pickable mid laner right now, unless we do see that Karthus flex there.
And I kind of like the setup coming from Misfits. We saw an incredible performance from Febivin yesterday. And right now, from what we're seeing, it looks like they are willing to save that final pick for him if necessary. And giving him a good matchup into Nukeduck will be crucial. And it seems like Origen are painfully aware of this. They will ban away the Aurelia, a champion that Febivin had a ton of success on.
Yeah, I'm actually really happy to see that they're giving Febivin so much respect. And the fact that Febi also has the confidence. Yesterday, we saw him go back to the Aurelia despite the nerfs and looked really strong and solid on the champion.
And really the whole of Misfits seemed revitalized. A lot of really good team play, something that had been lacking in weeks past. LeBlanc banned out. So both sides limiting the potential mid lane pool. Do not want to give Nukeduck his LeBlanc. You saw that even in a very Fnatic favored game, Nukeduck still found one or two opportunities to almost find those 100-0 kills despite massive gold deficits. But the final ban will come in for Origen. 12 seconds remaining, and they're biding their time, debating what they want to do, how they want to round out this draft. Do not have the luxury of last pick here, so need to be thinking about the blind picks that they can make in the second pick phase. Sejuani will be the final ban.
And champions that stand out to me that are still blind pickable here are things like the Lissandra. You can even look towards the Ryze, although Ryze seems to have kind of slipped off of the radar of a lot of different teams. It felt like he cropped up for 2 weeks, then suddenly completely disappeared.
Yeah, it's interesting because I felt like Aftershock Rise was so incredibly strong. Maybe this is something that we see pop up once again, but for now, I don't want to believe it, not even for a second. But the Ivern, oh, that's a nice one. Now Maxlore locking this one in. Historically, the start of the season, we talked about Misfits playing around bot, and Ivern is definitely a play around your 80 carry kind of champion.
I also just love how Ivern completely changes the jungle matchup and a lot of junglers' tempo and how they're setting up their pathing. Ivern opens up massive gank windows. I want to quickly touch about the Zoe before I continue on Ivern, though. I like blind pick Zoe because it makes the blind pick Lissandra that much harder, since Zoe's able to outrange Lissandra and put a lot of pressure and match her wave pushing. So I feel like this is Nukeduck throwing down the gauntlet and say, if you pick Lissandra here, you're doing this against your own interests, so I dare you.
I want to see if Evan will take into that. if he'll go for it. Now the hyper carry, are they going to match here? Will it be the Tristana locked in? And it is going into the hands of Patrick. They have the Tristana Braum lane. And interestingly, Gorilla is now going to be able to pick for Febvin that final pick, that counter pick. But the Braum Tristana lane, one that Blippo had very strong thoughts on, said individually neither of these champs should win lane. Together somehow it always works for Fnatic. Maybe we'll see if it also works for Origen today. But the final pick, this has to be such a tough call from the side of Misfits. They need a winning mid lane matchup. They need something that's going to be comfortable for Febvin. They do opt to go for the Orianna, committing Karthus to the jungle on the opposite side. The Ivern versus Karthus matchup, two champions with very unique clears. And this one already set up for some late game scaling.
So what I like about Orianna here is that she's very safe as a blind pickable champion. She does fall down underneath the likes of Lissandra or the Syndra, but we talked about how Lissandra has a poor matchup into Zoe, and Orianna then also empowers the 5v5. So if you see that you have Karthus and you have Yorick and you have this crazy side lane pressure from Origen's comp, it makes sense that Misfits are like, okay, grab a really strong 5v5 mid laner, and let's just try to group up and abuse them with the ball delivery service of Alistar Ori and blow them up in a fight, and then Urgot immediately deletes someone.
And I actually really like that plan. The other thing that seems so strong from the side of Misfits gaming composition is that with a supportive jungler like Ivern, you have access to that redemption, which can mitigate a lot of the early game impact of those Karthus ultimates, which is going to be important because we've seen what happens when you snowball a Karthus. We have plenty of games of evidence to know just how impossible it is to play those kind of games. But still, this sort of poke composition feels exactly like with the Zoe and the Karthus together, always feels so oppressive to play against if they are able to get to those first items unscathed. So I think a lot of pressure on both sides to execute well here in the early game.
Yeah, and now the question for me is, can Origen get through the early game where Cold can make an impact on that Karthus? And with the likes of Zoe, I say yes, because around levels 5, she could start automatically clearing the back wave of creep, so she should always have push priority, at least be able to match and kind of that tug-of-war trade with Orianna. But with Yorick versus Urgot, I feel like that's still skill match dependent. It feels like between a lot of professional players. Haven't seen enough tape from Yorick, so I really want to pay attention to what happens on the top side of the map, and if that's a possible breaking point early on for Yorick.
And we will have to find out once again. Match of the day, Misfits versus Origen. This time around, it might just be eyes on the top side of the map. So often, it is that island, but the Yorick into the Urgot may be mixing things up. We will find out. Battle in the standings, both teams racing for a spot in the playoffs. OGs run up the ladder, could be cut short here, and Misfits could find themselves tying the scoreline up. Ooh, and already Frosker, we check in on the itemization. We can, of course, keep an eye on the level 1, see if anyone wants to get too frisky. But Cole coming in for the Urgot, and that to me says, you know, I'm not scared. Not worried about it. I'm comfortable in this matchup. I've got the Dematerializer, I got the Cole. We're gonna take a step back.
In some of the few conversations that I've had, it feels like the lane just gets a lot easier for Yorick, like most champions, once he has access to his ultimate and has access to Maiden. Obviously, with more levels, he'll have access to more ghouls being able to spawn, and that's when a lot of his push and trading potential can come out. But otherwise, he just kind of sits in the lane, farms, and has sustain. So it makes sense that Soaz feels that he can get away with a Cole start to also just kind of sit in the lane, farm up, get some more bang for your buck, and have some sustain built in.
And it is obnoxious once Yorick gets level 2 on that ult, does get more ghouls there coming out in the initial spawn. But of course, this fact that the ghouls damage scales with level just makes him, you know, level 1 you're not too scared, but by the time level 5, level 6 rolls around, so I think those ghouls really start to hurt. Now Urgot, he's got the luxury of having the shotgun knees, but of course AoE damage mitigated on the ghouls as well, so a bit frustrating.
I do want to see Soaz retroactively early kind of punish Alphari in this lane with the push power of Urgot and a lot of some of his poke, simply because he is against a Karthus. Now you do need to be aware of the Karthus' ability to gank you at level 4, but early on, just like this, Soaz should get in Yorick's face and really punish him because he doesn't suspect that Karthus will be a high ganking jungler versus something like an Elise or a Lee Sin, so he should be free to be super forward in this lane and try to get as much early advantage that he can against Yorick before Yorick outscales him in a side lane.
And once again, level's very important for Yorick. You can see early on here, it's going to take a last hit with that Yorick Q, or it's going to take 12 minion deaths from either side to spawn a grave. 3 graves is going to be able to get you those ghouls. Once you have the ghouls, you can start to fight the Urgot, but without them, you are in a bit of a difficult spot. Soaz will spot out Karthus on the top side. That gives information over to Maxlore. For now, the Ivern will remain with the defensive pathing, and unique junglers here, and that neither one wants to particularly interact with the other, but they both may look to those lanes to find some early action.
And I think you called it, Dracos. You know, when you have an Ivern, not only does it help kind of these hyper-scaling ADCs because of how they can approach a tower, you place a bush, it makes sieging very powerful, but also his itemization into Redemption early on is kind of a semi-counter to the likes of Karthus. I suspect that's what we'll see, but we will check on and try to keep up with what Maxlore is going to itemize on Ivern.
And how this champion has changed since we've seen him a lot in competitive last. Has been a big banned away almost exclusively from Broxa, but otherwise just hasn't received a ton of attention in the ban phase, or the pick phase for that matter. For now though, things are looking all right for Misfits. They've got pressure in all 3 lanes, and Cold, sadly, not the kind of jungler who can really punish this, just focused on that farm for now. So at least at this stage, OG doing what they can to pick up farm in these lanes, but are definitely going to lose out on this information game as there's a lot of free access across the map.
Yeah, Cold right now is just looking for full clears of his jungle. He wants to get as many repeats of Krug camps as possible because he wants to get more EXP, or at least the most EXP that he can leech from his jungle to try to get him to level 6 as quickly as possible.
Maxo the level 3, a little bit behind here. Will pick up a camp though and immediately get that level 4, and we'll see what these both junglers want to do with this bit of free time before the next round of camps does respawn. Very small window, but one they could potentially exploit. Alfari though, now starting to get a little bit more aggressive. You can see he uses that first set of ghoul spawns. Try to get a little bit more done here on the top side. And meanwhile in the mid lane, Nukeduck losing out on health, but I think almost more important in the early game option is the mana, where you can see the Nukeduck does have a pretty significant advantage, and that is a fast Ivern. No. Runs in and just runs right back out. I thought Maxlore might try to go for the play there, but just getting a little frisky, just running in.
I believe the ward that Patrick dropped was right on time. I'd have to get another look at it, but I glanced over at the other screen, thought I came back, and Patrick just dropped a ward right on Ivern's face, and Maxlore's like, nope, turned around, walked it the other direction.
And once again, this is his time. He's trying to fish, he's trying to look for these opportunities, trying to look for these plays, and now, so we're getting that level 5, as you mentioned, Frostcurrent, and things start to shift a little bit in Nukeduck's favor, as it will be a lot easier to clear out these waves.
Here we go. Here's the replay. Yeah, Patrick literally just dropped the ward as Ivern took the corner.
Beautiful timing. Very lucky from Patrick, or well played. We're not 100% sure without the team comms, but we'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. Jungle camps now do start to respawn, so the brief window where Ivern was starting to look out and to get adventurous will close. Now he's going to be once again focused back on that jungle, and it looks like a waiting game till we get to level 6 Frostcurrent. Easy indicator with the Karthus on one side, and Misfits potentially ready to play around that Orianna ultimate, the Urgot ultimate.
This is the window though. Cold level 4 has access to the Wall of Pain, so Soaz knowingly has already placed the ward, sees the gank incoming, and that was kind of the one big window that Soaz had to be aware of, because now Karthus is going to go back to all of his camps spawning, look for another full clear, and Soaz will have another big window to start punching Alfari in the face.
Right now, I feel like we learn more about this matchup every time we watch it, Frostcurrent, because I was really convinced that Yorick would be so strong early on, but Soaz just does not care. And it looks like the Cole buy was well founded. He hasn't been punished for it. He's been farming quite comfortably. And maybe with a little bit of support from Maxlore and on the back of this level 2, does miss the disdain though. That's big. If that had connected, would have been a death onto Alfari, no doubt in my mind, but just going to be able to walk away with his life, not going to miss out on anything.
I'm curious if Maxlore was also caught. I think as he walked by the creeps, they did get information of him. It's not a huge loss because, again, both these junglers are just trying to hard farm their jungle, but it does give Cold small opportunities like that to place some aggressive deep vision and maybe even catch out where Mithy is pathing, excuse me, Gorilla is pathing. I'm so used to seeing Mithy on Alistar to place defensive vision in River.
In some games, Frostcurrent, I feel like we're going to be playing you know, we're Mad Max. I'll just call it Mad Max. We're going to be playing Mad Max, where people are just running at each other fast as they can, trying to kill each other. This game, much slower, much more patient. Neither team is looking to go for these aggressive plays, and it does feel like the junglers kind of dictate a lot of the pace here in the early game. None of these lanes is so one-sided that anyone can go for really any big individual outplays.
When your early game pace is dictated by Ivern and Karthus, you're not moving anywhere real fast anytime soon.
Slow champions. Maxlore has the Mobies, though, and is approaching level 6. Does improve his ganks to a certain degree, but Ivern always does feel like a more supportive champion. Could maybe look to enable the Alistar on the bottom side, but Alfari now with the Maiden does become a lot bigger threat, as he is able to just keep this one with him, have him follow him indefinitely.
You know, that is a good point, that if you do look at kind of the gank options that Maxlore has available to him, you know, he's got the hard CC virtually in every single lane, as well as kill pressure there, so he does have a lot of options and kind of like a wealth of information, but the fact is that OG are just letting themselves get pushed in quite safely and then picking up and hoovering up all of this free gold and EXP.
And Frostcurrent, we were like building this up at the start of the day. We're like, ooh, Cold, Maxlore. Two big defining players for their team. The pressure is on for both. The pressure is not on at all. These guys are chilling. They are waiting. They are looking for level 6s. They are waiting for ultimates. They are biding their time. And I wanted to be like, oh, Febiven versus Nuke Duck, who's going to smash who? But they're also just chilling, looking for that opportunity. The difference is on the top side, where Soaz gets trapped in that wall, and Alfari, while he was suffering earlier, is now starting to lay the smackdown onto this Urgot Maiden. Just so incredibly powerful that it's going to start to turn that matchup. And instantly, as I talk about it, First Blood comes in. Great capitalization on the side of Misfits. You just got to catch the curse at Frostgurn, and it's going to come true.
And that's the thing. We talked about how Origen are just sitting under their towers, hoovering up all this gold, but that does mean that the EXP advantage is going to Hansama and Gorilla, and they use it to abuse it, and here comes Alfari.
Comes in, Karthus ulti 2, Maiden gonna cut him down, Cold's gonna grab a Dark Harvest stack, and that is all she wrote. That is the combo of the Yorick and the Karthus. Maxwell gonna fire back though with an Infernal Drake on the bottom side. His bot lane is there to back it up though, so it does feel like a one exchange for Misfits in the end.
But will anyone be able to stop this York? Because we saw last game, SK Gaming really just ran over the side lane with it, and Alfari is now set on a perfect springboard to do just that. So grab the Infernal. It's a great RNG spawn for Misfits to try to trade some of that pressure back, but will it be enough?
Yeah, now with the Sheen and a Cole of his own for Alfari. Decides he wants to match the gold generation, put it by Soaz on the opposite side. We take a look back at this one more time, and you can see just waiting for that Unbreakable to fall, and the immediate engage, so well timed there.
Yeah, and didn't even have to use the ultimates despite the fact that they had the EXP advantages. Now we look top lane. Ooh, very fast.
And sadly, when you're Urgot and you've already used the W, really hard to get out of that Yorick wall. Without the Purge, you do not, your attack speed not high enough to break it. You see him use it right there at the end, and the icing on the cake really is the Karthus coming. I don't think he was necessary. I'm going to be honest, Frostgurn, but donating a kill to a Karthus on your team never feels like a bad idea.
And it's always just obnoxious because you can never find yourself in a situation like that because the dive threat is so incredibly powerful.
And now Cold just continues to snowball up. And we see Maxor 52 CS starting to fall behind in the jungle matchup to kill as well. Dark Seal coming in for Cold. Feels like mostly for potions, but now that he's got a kill, he can pretend that it was for the big snowball factor. 2 stacks already, working towards that Runic Echoes in the jungle enchant. Will add additional bursts to that ultimate next time it's available. And that is a window that OG can try to play around. The next time that's up, they can look to get some work done. But I feel like I feel like everyone has just agreed to keep playing lane phase. No one's looking to make any crazy swaps. No one's looking to break down any towers. Just seeing this drawn out effect in the lane phase for now. And Gorilla and Hansama have to be feeling confident. You can see the BF Sword double pickaxe coming in for Hans.
Trying to get the Q unlock, which he succeeds. Here we go.
Nuke Duck now ghosting. Does get locked up. Daisy's going to come in as well. Febiven going to look for the follow-up play. The flash out from Nuke Duck. Well played exchange there in the end to turn around what could have been a disastrous Sleepy Trouble Bubble. And Gorilla potentially overstaying its welcome. The knockup is going to come out, but Hansama just goes right in onto Patrick, just not able to have the damage, but Mithy is there to block it out. Maybe they can keep the play going, but no, the Buster shot just for the disengage. Topside. Hello.
Hello.
Gonna go in. Drowsy, Sleepy Scion, dead. Sleepy Scion. You sleep for a long time when you die, I've heard. And now immediately going to shift their attention to the Rift Herald. So what was once a passive game is now exploded here with some topside action.
And I'm curious how Soaz got cut out in the river. I'm sure we'll catch it on the replay, but obviously a dangerous position to be in with Febiven having just used the Shockwave. So of course Misfits were going to be at a disadvantage fighting the 3v3 on the top side of the map without one of their key ultimates.
And additionally, once again, a lot of strong champions here on the top side of the map. This is where Origen are strong right now. They already had that first kill. You already had that Yorick with the Maiden just following him indefinitely. So it feels like Origen playing to their strong side.
And the thing is with Zoe and Yorick, champions that, I mean, Yorick's dependent on his ultimate, but the idea is that they don't have big, massive cooldowns like the likes of Urgot ult and like the likes of Shockwave, that once you use them, they can continue to apply the pressure. You know, Febiven, or excuse me, Nuke Duck is going to constantly be looking for plays as Zoe instead of just one big cooldown. Okay, 2 minutes later, I wait, I got my cooldown, look for another play.
And as a result, slowly but surely, we do see Origen building up these gold leads, playing around these abilities, and we can check out a look at how this fight played out. So as moving to contest this vision, has mid priority, feels like, hey, I am comfortable, I am good, but Alfari immediately walks down, willing to sacrifice a few of those creeps to get this fight going.
Yeah, unfortunately, just a little bit too greedy on the crab, it looks like, and then got caught out in the baby cage.
And you're hoping there that your team can back you up as Soaz, but just no one really in a good position to respond. Absolute vision control from the side of Origen.
I mean, like you said, Soaz thought that they had mid priority. The way it was actually crashing into Nuke Duck's tower. Just Maxlor and Febiven were on the other side of the lane.
Not a good spot to respond. All right, so far in the early game for Oscar, he can retake a look at what's happened here. We've had Karthus and Yorick doing a lot of stuff, making a lot of things happen. We've had OG's bot lane holding on for dear life as Hansama and Gorilla continue to get more aggressive, start to build up a bit of a CS lead, have a few of those tower plates down. So now it does feel like a story of top versus bottom. We've got Hansama for Misfits trying to hold it together, whereas Alfari and Cold, really the question is who's going to stop them at this point?
I mean, the one person that probably feels like they're in a bit of trouble is this top lane, especially as the Rift Herald has been summoned, because I feel like Patrick and Mithy are totally fine falling down 10 CS when they have the likes of a Tristana and such a hard winning top side. But Misfits, they're going to try to break that.
Mithy going to block whatever fall-off damage he can. Now leaping out, but they wait for the Unbreakable to come in, and now they're going to chase this one down. Patrick burned down where he stands. Nukeduck now trying to fire back, though. Stop this tower from going in for a bit more damage, but is going to miss there. Sleeping Trouble Bubble does go in. Mithy's still alive. Knockup comes in. They're body blocking for Hansama. This one is getting drawn out, but meanwhile on the top side, all this time being burnt is just time going into the back pocket of Alfari and Cold, who continue the push on the top side, who look to break down these tier 2s. Everything now going in the favor of Origen as this fight just keeps going. Gorilla wants to turn it against the knockup. It is knocked back. Mithy now taken. No! Manages to survive, manages to buy a bit more time, and Nukeduck just cannot be stopped. The Zoe is terrorizing the Misfits team.
Nukeduck with the blue buff is able to just constantly keep spamming all of the abilities, manages to hold the tower, and meanwhile Rift Herald and Yorick did so much work on the top side of the map. That's a huge win for Origen.
For Febivin, though, now getting pressured in the mid lane. The Karthus ulti coming out.
That's right.
Gorilla.
Oh, no!
No! That's a Runic Echoes completed. That is a Dark Harvest, and that is a dead cow. Cold. 2-0-1 on the Karthus. And this is once again the scenario you do not want to play against. Urgot is already down 0-2. The Trinity Force well on the way for the Yorick on the top side, and Cold steadily building up those items. Level 9, when that level 11 comes through, the level 2 ult, things are going to get even harder for this Misfits lineup.
That was a clincher. I feel bad for Gorilla.
We've been there. You cross your fingers, you hope. Maybe this time it won't do enough damage, you say to yourself.
You're trying to eyeball it. You're like, I can walk this one off.
We needed a replay of this. You're wondering why, folks, but you gotta relive these moments sometimes. Because this is how you remember to ban Karthus in your solo queue game.
What's really interesting is that Karthus has huge priority in the LEC, but he's virtually seen nowhere else. The LPL and the LCK cannot make this champion work, or they feel like they just have the proper strategy to invade, blitz him in the jungle, and shut him down early. So it is kind of one of the big meta differences between the LEC and the global regions.
It's interesting because we have seen that strategy in the LEC. We do not see it today. Misfits going with a different strategy, trying to use the utility scaling of the Ivern to balance out the damage scaling of the Karthus.
That was like a PowerPoint presentation with Ivern there.
Has not worked. Yeah, just one frame at a time, Frosker, and we're back in the LPL. Now moving down. Ooh. Try to use Daisy to pressure this. Third time's the charm, folks. This is the third time they've made this play. It will now work. Nukeduck, though, going to get pulled back. Fevin throws down a bit of poke. Should now give him some control around the mid lane, but Yorick remains uncontested on the top side of the map. Someone needs to back off. Someone needs to stop Alfari from continuing to push, because look at those ghouls. Oh, man. The squad rolling up, and they aggro the cannon minion, folks. Fun fact, they will prioritize those over normal creeps. They will not prioritize it over a cannon. So these boys, they just got to keep hitting. Soaz has to come up here to kill those little buggers. Misfits going to try to contest this one. Now it's stolen away by Cold, and the play is just going to continue. Misfits remaining on the back foot here. Maxlor now in trouble. The knockup is going to come in. Gorilla on the backside. Maxlor already taken down, and Yorick has TP'd into the fray.
It is so risky to take that dragon as Misfits, not only because it's just an Ocean Drake, so let it go, but the fact is that Soaz, on his spellbook, doesn't have access to the teleport right now, or would have delayed access to it. So, the fact that you knew you had a numbers advantage, that Soaz says, hey guys, I'm clearing out mid, I'm going up top lane. They tried to rush it, and they just gambled wrong on it.
And the more and more we see of the Urgot and Yorick matchup, the more that I'm convinced that you just cannot do this. That this is just not an option. Because once he gets a little bit of a lead, he just gets to go wherever he wants. The minions continue to keep the pressure, forcing Soaz to keep attention here. And really, the icing on the cake is that Dragon Steal. Because the kill at this point is basically guaranteed. Maxlor, not really any avenues out there, short of the Blast Cone, but stealing the Dragon 2 is just insult to injury.
Do need to really credit the perfect layering of CC right there. Make sure that Maxlor never even got a shot at that Blast Cone.
He desperately wants to push a button. He cannot, Frosker, and he cannot. 202 bounties on the Yorick and the Karthus may be somewhere worth focusing, but you can see Yorick now with a pickaxe in his inventory has a lot of options. He can go for the Sterex Gauge, he can go for the Death Stance. That's what we saw in the previous game with Warlib, and we saw an unkillable, unstoppable Yorick once he hit that stage.
I was actually curious if they were going to swap Alfari to the bottom side and try to let him run away with this, but he's just going to continue to abuse Soaz. But I still think it's really dangerous for Alfari to try to pressure the inhib tower, so while Yorick is going to be very far extended up here and pretty obnoxious to Soaz, all he really is doing is forcing these waves pretty freely into Soaz. And as Febiven's rotating around, Soaz should be able to kind of bounce between mid and top and try to pick up free farm wherever he can.
The question then becomes Baron, but it is only 18 minutes. Normally when we see someone...
It's not a question right now,
I know. But the thing is that feels like what you have to be waiting for, because you have total control of the top side with this Yorick right now. If he has wards, if he has control wards, he can own that side of the jungle. No one is going to set foot there but Yorick. But there's just nothing there to play around. So Origen are in a bit of a lackluster position in that sense.
No, what they want to do is now try to get mid lane priority and force that tower down if they want to play around the Baron, which is why they're now pulling Alfari into the mid lane.
Daisy is going to go in. The shockwave attached there. Cold not going to get taken down. Mithy now looking for the engage. Braum ulti is available as the flash is going to find the two-man knockup, and immediately Gorilla is now in trouble. They're going to try to burn through that damage reduction. Gorilla flashing out to safety. Febiven, though, sniping Mithy in the exchange. Ghouls screaming their way in, but that will trade going in the favor of Misfits.
Yeah, Origen delayed to the play, tried to overforce it, and it's Febiven that has the last laugh there, so well played by Misfits.
Really for Misfits now, taking advantage of some of these opportunities. You can see Yorick on the top side starting to recoup some of the farm loss, has finished the Black Cleaver. Maybe things get a little bit easier from here.
Urgot on the top side, managing to recoup.
There you go.
And that was also kind of the big winner there, is that while Origen tried to force their hand, not only did Misfits get the kill as well as the tower, is that Soaz was able to, I believe, to push 2 waves back. So he's slowly trying to climb out of this farm hole, but still a significant advantage to Alfari.
And Alfari now has realized that there's nothing else for him to take on the top side, so has returned his attentions to the bottom side of the map. We'll get these ghouls spawn. We'll set the Maidem up, despite the low health, to start to pressure this tower. Does get a bit of damage down there, and really just a nightmare. Really hard to lock down Alfari at this stage of the game. The good news is that while a lot of this gold is going on to Alfari, a ton of the gold on the opposite side is going into the pocket of Hans Sama. And now late game, you give me the option of a Fed carry. I would still put my money on the Kai'Sa over the Yorick.
And Kai'Sa is obviously the champion at this point that can contest the Yorick into the side lane, zip back there with the ultimate. We take another look at this play. All eyes need to be on how Febiven is able to find Mithy and just scoop him out from underneath Origen's nose, it feels like.
It just feels like just sometimes in pro play you forget about the ball. Mithy, oh, boom.
It was the Ludens.
Forgot about the Ludens. How dare he not calculate that one? Well played. Perfect timing comes in for Febiven to get that one, and now he finds himself a 500 gold bounty. Bit of a difficult spot.
Feels like a strong assist by Hans Sama. He ate so many cubes.
That's the value. People underestimate how strong that Acathian Rain is when you get that upgrade early, but it does a ton of damage if you ever find yourself singled out. For Mithy and the rest of the Origen lineup, it felt like they had control here for a little bit when the Yorick and the Karthus were doing everything they could to snowball, but now that the map is a little split up, now that Yorick isn't quite as easily able to take some of these initial towers, things have slowed down a little bit. And now it's Patrick who's picking up a lot of this extra farm.
And Misfits are going to feel really confident right now. Like you said, they have the nice itemization off of Hans Sama, have the 2 items completed, whereas Tristana is in a bit of a rut right now. It's kind of one of those matchups where the likes of Tristana, likes of Sivir versus Kai'Sa, is that she's still going to spike on 2 or have a spike on 2, where they're carrying over looking for that 3rd item. So there is this big window that Misfits can play around as long as Hans Sama is in the play.
For now, it looks like they are content to continue sending Hans Sama to do his own thing, send him off on his lonesome. He is going to kill this one very quickly. Obviously, a much better dragon-taking threat than the Ivern with the Gwynsu's available, the Plasma stacks as well. Looks like he may go to the bottom side, too, to pick up a little bit more here, but it does mean that Origen have complete control on the top side if they want to push for more, knowing that the biggest damage threat is there.
And you can watch Hans Sama on the map. He wants to go down and catch that farm, but he knows that the danger of the Baron is forcing him to kind of respond and return back to the mid lane. So a bit of a fumble there on the lane assignments from Misfits, but now it should be Soaz that matches across from Yorick.
And I like that you bring up Soaz, because I have a really not important at all point to share with you, Frostgren. Do you know how many assists Soaz has all time, LEC?
Do you want me to read it?
No, I'm gonna. You see, because this is incorrect. This is the graphic that's prepared in the event that he hits a very big number. He's currently at 2,299. One more, and this man will have 2,300 assists. And while he may not even know that he's that close, I'm going to pretend that this is really important to him. And that deep in his heart, on stage, you can see it, the focused, determined look in his eyes right now, folks, that this matters. And that he is waiting for his opportunity to strike as he moves into the mid lane. He's going to go for it, Frostgren. One
sure
more assist.
He wants the kill.
One more assist.
Not necessarily
No!
the assist.
Are you implying that Urgot is really good at getting kills? I think he's set up to get assists here, Frostgren. That's a sleepy Alistar. Nuke Duck, the name of the game for Operation SOAS. For Operation Misfits, though, it is the mid lane tower. They have managed to secure priority here and are going to keep the pressure down. Cold's going to move in to clear some of these waves. A bit difficult for them to get anything else done. Decent sieging with the bushes from Ivern, but of course, very good wave healer with the Karthus and the Zoe.
We're naming everything in Operation. This is Operation Avoid Yorick. So this is how this is going to go. We're going to play tug of war with whatever lane Yorick is in. He's going to push it forward, then you're going to push it back. And then in that tiny window, when he's not taking everything off your yard, you're going to try to make a play somewhere else. And that's what's going to happen repeatedly. But wait, there's a Tristana.
And now SOAS doing what he can to kind of contest how far here, running forward like he's going to do something, but
He just wants him off his lawn.
you just, please leave, sir. You're not welcome here. Stop digging holes in my yard. No one appreciates it. Make it stop. Gorilla does not appreciate the Nuke Duck poke damage. And as interesting as this mid lane is, I feel like in a moment's notice, there's no doubt in my mind that someone can just get to lead in the mid lane. But both teams seem content, or rather OG seem content, to just continue letting this Yorick live in the sideline. They seem content saying, hey, Misfits, as long as you're putting people here, we'll keep playing here.
Yeah, and it's exactly that. You know, even with the Tristana, because they've now pushed Patrick out into a side lane, even though he's just kind of absorbing the farm, the fact of the matter is that Origen are trying to split up the map and either abuse how obnoxious Yorick is, abuse that if they find a pick, they have the Karthus so they can attack anywhere on the map, and then make sure that all of their carries are simultaneously getting farmed. Because the more that Hansama and Fevivin stand in a lane together to wave clear and kind of successfully hold Origen when they do manage to push up mid lane, means that you're dividing gold between your two resources. So that's what Origen are trying to do. Misfits, they're just trying to force a fight. They're just getting annoyed, and they want to lock down Origen, and they want to find a massive 5v5 Shockwave, Alistar, Urgot, whatever it is.
I mean, they have the building blocks for the Wombo combo. We've seen it. We've seen what an Alistar and an Orianna can do. Orianna is getting more items, has double flat pen here, has the Morellos building towards that death cap. Maybe a Zanya's stop along the way, but for now, at least has the stopwatch if it comes down to a clutch team fight. Origen, though, are having none of it. They back off. They see multiple members come into topside. They walk away. This is the Alfari show, ladies and gentlemen. One Yorick versus the world. 4 other people going to farm and wait for the Yorick.
It's musical chairs around Baron. That's what the other 4 are doing. They're just, okay, we can't leave this objective alone. Hansama was like, Tristana gets to farm a side lane. By God damn it, I get to farm a side lane too.
And I want to know what the comms sound like, Frostguard. Because for OG, I feel like it's very simple. It says, Yorick's on side, we're good. We're fine. For Misfits, I want to know, are they saying, oh, it's okay, we don't need to catch these waves, we can go for the fight? For he looks like they may have found the fight, because instantly, Nuke Duck is dead. Misfits turning their attention down. Do they want to extend the fight? Do they want to go for the Baron here? They need to make a quick call, because Yorick, the pressure is still being applied there, and it looks like the call is going to be the Baron. Hansama moving in to clear out a little bit of that vision.
It's a race. You look at Yorick.
Tristana going bot side. Are we getting a base rate? It is 26 minutes into the game. The Baron is in the sights of Misfits.
And Patrick's going with him.
They've got 2 members there. They've got the Maiden. They could just look to end this one. If they get the Baron, they will get the empowered recalls. OG are not contesting this one. It looks like they will trade the inhibitor for the Baron buff in the end. If that Baron was stolen, no doubt in my mind, the game would have ended, but Origen not going to take the risky play.
Excellent call from Origen right there. Yes, Misfits get the Baron, but old school logic is that when you get the Baron, if you lose your bot inhib, you're basically using the Baron defensively. So I actually really like this from Hansama, but they have to be so careful. So Maxwell's trying to scout out on the side, as well as pulling down Fevivin to shadow them to make sure that they can force this tower. But still, good response from Origen, and now what can Misfits do with this Baron?
And the gold is now dead even as well. Frostguard 47.8 to 47.9. They are able to break 1 tower already. What else can they get done? What else can they make happen? Yorick, of course, moving into the Dragon Pit. Looks like he will be soloing out the Drake here. Grabbing that one for the team. Is going to be the Ocean. Will be nice to have for that side lane split push threat, as well as for the Karthus in the jungle, but not going to be the same threat as one of those Infernals at this stage of the game.
So at this point, what Origen want to do is they want to make sure that while Misfits are resetting the map, before they get to kind of group up and use their Baron and use their 5v5 composition in one lane, they want to hard force everything else, so it eats up time of Misfits' Baron timer to go out and clear these waves. Like SOAS is like, gotta go to this top lane, gotta fix this wave, then I'm gonna group with you guys. And while this is happening, Origen want to move underneath Misfits, not fight them, unless they can get a pick off of Nuke Duck, and then just constantly, again, play this musical chairs around the map where they just annoy Misfits, keep them rotating to wave to reset map.
And honestly, it's not a super bloody team fight, which is a play-by-play is always my favorite thing to watch. But I do enjoy the clean League of Legends, and for now it is clean. That pick almost going down into Gorilla. Will hold on to the ultimate for now. Is forced to get out of there. And really, OG as a team, very slow, very steady, very patient. They've shown a few weak points. That is Misfits finding those kills. But when you look at the Misfits lineup, 2-0-0 for Fevivin. Soaz, though, could find himself toe-to-toe with Alfari. The OG lineup is going to be here first. Soaz needs to get out of dodge. They're going to continue this play. The blast cone is there as well. Soaz trying to make it out to safety, but he's been stunned up, and he's going to get taken out. Kill goes over to Patrick, but Hansam is immediately on the bottom side. Suddenly the tempo is kicking up, ladies and gentlemen. We are now looking for an inhibitor, potentially, if Misfits want to push for a bit more here to keep this play going. They are going to continue. Mid lane is pressured as well, and it looks like they are now just going to group. They're trying to dive. They want to extend this advantage.
And this is exactly where Misfits want to be. They want to be using the Baron aggressively on the towers. Origen overcommitted to the attempted pick, although they did kill Soaz on the tankiest member, so it took a long time to kill him, and that let Misfits do something. I like the fact that Hansama also attacked the super minion wave to make sure that that wasn't going to be an obnoxious pressure point on the bottom side of their map by just forcing it through.
And a battle of picks versus Yorick split push appears to be the story so far. Big fat bot wave, going to continue pushing though because the inhibitor is still down despite kind of taking care of that one earlier with Hansama. And now we look across the board. Gorilla and the rest of this team have good opportunities to get in. The death cap now finished for Fevivin, so hugely powerful Orianna if you can find that multi-man shockwave. And it's a similar story for the Kai'Sa at 3 items. Tristana at 3 items though, I feel like arguably able to match that power. 4 items come in for the Kai'Sa. Maybe it goes back in her favor.
I mean, it's just going to be about execution. It kind of feels like if Fevivin hits the massive shockwave, like with a wombo combo composition like this, it doesn't matter. If you find your target, you're just going to blow up the fight, whereas there's so much pick potential and backline threat from Nuke Duck.
So I was saying Super Trouble Bubble, probably who you want to tank that shot for you. Nuke Duck just continues to play with the paddle stars, trying to find a weak target on the front line. And now Origen, despite having Alfari on the front line earlier, Alfari's starting to build more tank, a little less focused on that side lane split push than we saw with the Death's Dance.
Check out what Gorilla is doing. So Misfits have done a really good job trying to clear out and make this runway, and he wants to find a flank to the side to force that fight. So Origen, they actually might fall for this trap right now.
Nuke Duck.
Oh no.
Ooh, the ward comes out. They're not in position to follow up on that one.
But what Gorilla's going to constantly do is cut off to these sides and then place down control wards, use his sweeper, make sure that they have some sort of access to force the fights. And as long as Origen can keep their flanks covered with wards, or at least be aware that that's possible, again, it's just about absorbing time.
And now 30 minutes passed. Gold 1K in the favor of Misfits. I feel like the carries on the side of Misfits much stronger at this stage of the game. The split push is on the opposite side. Maxlor immediately forced to flash here, trading 1-for-1 with Mithy and Summoners.
Not the end of the world for pretty much either person. I'm going to say Maxlor.
And Frostcurrent, are we just waiting? I mean, I understand what OG are trying to doing, and it feels like the later we get in the game, the harder it is to kind of pull off a lot of these split push plays, so that does seem like why we're seeing more of these tanky itemizations coming out, the inhibitor now respawning. But if you're Misfits, is it really as simple as just waiting for that pick? Just setting up over and over again and looking for that single opportunity?
I mean, that's pretty much the same thing that Origen are doing, but I'm curious, you know, at what point does Yorick, if ever, just become completely uncontestable in the bottom lane? Like, are we waiting for a specific itemization breakpoint? I believe right now he started to go defensive in his itemization. I think had a Randuin's last time I saw it.
Yep. Trying to mitigate some of the damage coming out from the crit threat on Patrick, of course, one of the really the only sources of sustained damage. Karth is there as well, but very often they just get deleted at the start of those fights.
Because so far, globally in other regions, we've seen, you know, champions like Fiora picked into the Yorick, so these other champions that just hyperscale into side lanes to try to go with them. But Alfari seems to have given up on the side lane dream, at least for now, because if a team fight happens here, they lose pretty much the entire game. So has to at least be with his team to protect them, to make sure that they can get priority of this mid lane back, especially with Baron and Infernal up.
And this Misfit strategy of setting themselves up for late game with the Ivern and the Kai'Sa is now starting to pay off. They are going to be able to grab this Infernal and be able to move up to contest this Baron if OG want to go for it.
Here we go.
For the flanks. Could be the big team fight. Gorilla's going to be the key enabler here. Watch the ball. If it gets attached to Gorilla, expect the immediate engage. But meanwhile, Yorick is going to start off the Baron.
They don't know Soaz is there.
They're just trying to start this one, though. Misfits need to make a call here. OG are just going to get this one. They can two-man with Alfari and Cold. Gorilla now going in. Hansama going to try to follow up. Patrick is in trouble. Mithy doing what he can to disengage, doing what he can to block. The ultimate from Zoas has been blocked as well. Cold now on a killing spree. The fight shifting back and forth. Once forward killed on either side. Alfari with a beautiful stopwatch to stop the shockwave from going through, but now he's still in the middle of the team. Shut down as the carries from Misfits prove stronger in the fight. And OG bite off a bit more than they can chew.
Not just stronger in the fight, but Origen's carries were completely locked out of that fight. Patrick was so afraid to step forward with the Tristana, but now they have to stop this Baron. Here we go.
Oh no, Nuke Duck caught out. No option to get to safety there in the exchange. Misfits already went to the Baron. Cold could try to go for the steal here, but I don't know if it's going to set him up for success. Patrick maybe can look for the resets. Health bar is getting a little bit lower after that ult, after the Requiem. Patrick's just poking, waiting for that rapid fire cannon to stack up. Going to deal a little bit more damage. Has the potential here to find a massive fight. Moves in. They're not able to steal the Baron, but Cold is dead. They need to get out of this pit. The Cards is going to start to do so much damage. Hansama leaping forward. He needs to find this kill. Buster shot. Rapid fire cannon. Who's going to get it first? One auto could turn this. Who has a ward to go over the wall? Sees him in the bush. They're playing at those max ranges. Has the shield as well. Patrick flirting with disaster when he steps forward. So as now moving in. Ready to keep this one going. Mithy is here as well. Can body block. Not going to get anything off the Kaisa W. Very, very close.
And what has been a very tense back and forth game as Misfits were run around the map. They finally consolidated all of their resources. It was Soaz who teleported, who got to the side. It wasn't necessarily him that started the fight, but the threat of the Urgot from the side meant that Nuke Duck had to use his cooldowns to zone out the Urgot and didn't have the cooldowns to follow up on the fight in front of him. Look at Zoe. She's not doing anything right now for this fight.
Just such a difficult spot to be in. Starting the fight with Patrick chunked out makes it so incredibly difficult, and Cold, of course, with no front line there so quickly. Neilwork as well, not your ideal tank, means it's hard for the Karthus to function in that scenario, and just beautiful play here for Maxwell to find this one.
Yeah, I love how he used Daisy around the corner there.
It's a bit of vision. And Frostgurren, for Patrick, you got to feel, does manage to heal up over the course of this fight, but so close to seeing that dream moment, that montage moment. They steal the Baron here. Patrick pops off. It's a quadra from Patrick. He can hear the crowd. It's just not meant to be. There's too many defensive tools there to protect Hansama, and despite the range difference between the champions, Patrick just cannot find that last hit to secure the kill.
But another Baron for Misfits, and hopefully this time around they're looking to try to crack into this inhib line. It's still so difficult to do because of the amount of wave clear that you have between Karthus, between Tristana, between Yorick. So again, if they're going to try to force it out on a side lane with Hansama, has double Infernal, very fed. Look at his itemization across from Kaisa. He's going to be a massive issue to deal with, or if they're going to try to consolidate all five and again look for that wombo combo. But
and now I'm looking at the Karthus, kind of hoping to get more out of this one from Cold in the fights to come, because he has so much of the team's gold. You look at like the 3-1-2 scoreline, you see the death cap is there as well for him, matching Zoe in terms of gold despite the massive farm difference. And on the opposite side, we see a 5K difference. 5K difference in the mid laners. The 80 carries as well, 3K in favor of Hansama, and that is absolutely brutal. Yes, you have all this gold on Alfari, but it's just not worth anything in these fights.
Origen just want to clear and to stall.
Hoping to back off, hoping to buy a bit more time. For now, though, one inhibitor at least is going to go down, but they're hoping to make it a trade as Alfari is on the bottom side of the map. He wants to get one back, but they may be giving up a 2-for-1 here. Nuke Duck trying to find the poke. He's not connected. Sleepy Trouble Bubble onto the Alistair. Featherman going to grab another tower. Soaz here to clear it out, but it is an inhibitor for an inhibitor. Misfits going to respond with a second one, making it a 2-for-1 in their favor. Misfits set up for a slow, steady closeout, but it will take at least one more big fight to make it happen.
And normally at this point you'd say that 2 inhibs down means that the team's going to lose, but because it is a Tristana, it's like if it's a Sivir or a Triss, that even if you're missing 2 inhibs, the amount of wave clear on this champion is just absurd.
I mean, massive attack speed steroid at this point, huge range, a lot of damage output with the 4 items. 75% crit chance, exactly where the Tristana wants to be. See what the final itemization option is. Maybe goes for more aggressive items. Hansama has completed his build now, opted for that final item, Guardian Angel, making it even harder for them to come out on top in these fights.
So at this point, I just want Misfits to choke out Origen on the map and look for the Elder. They don't have to be as a whole team to take this one. They can actually just have a tank stand with Kaisa. They're this fed that she could get it for free. As long as they continue to apply pressure, have priority in these lanes surrounding the Elder, and then opening up space for Hansama to do it.
And double Inferno really is the insult to injury, because if this Elder does come through, they're just going to have so much damage in the back pocket of Hansama. Origen getting this, though, could start to turn things around for them, a bit more true damage. And everything both teams know how important this fight is. Origen have some good kind of edge vision. They know that it has been started. They're debating if they want to move on this one. This very well could be the final fight
Origen need to just go back into the lane, get mid priority. You've cleared out some vision. You've at least placed something down. There we go. That was the big bush. Is the Iron bush working against them?
Now it's Origen starting to clear out. They've got the mid priority. Patrick just going to leap in, though. Bold decision. Not able to do a ton of damage.
Check out the two super waves. Pounding on Origen's top lane.
TP not available quite yet. Mithy trying to buy time. Patrick still in the back line, still safe. Bevan taking a big chunk. Patrick still untouched. Mithy now flashing out to safety. Alistar in the front lines, but may just be the sacrificial cow. Hansama doing a lot of damage, but hasn't found a way back into the team fight. Super minions in the base of Origen.
Oh,
back off the TP now coming in for Soaz. They need to get their back secured. Zoe's now coming in. We'll try to clear out these waves, but Zoe does not have, potentially does not have the wave throw necessary to make this happen. Soaz is just going to grab one tower. They are able to take down Maxwell. That is big. But Soaz is continuing to threaten the base. Ooh, Frostguard, incredibly tense game. Patrick and the rest of the OG lineup. Are they going to go for the Elder here?
They just have to zone them off. So Nukeduck manages to get his back in time that Soaz can't end the game, but that is an exposed Nexus.
An exposed Nexus and an incredibly powerful Kaisa who can walk into that base at any point. You've got an Urgot with TP in 5 minutes. That's 6 minutes that can make this happen. Elder Dragon in the eyes. Nukeduck, a one-man army trying to clear out these waves. You've got Oriana doing a similar route. It's going to come down to who can actually get this one. Patrick creeping forward. If Hansama goes down here, this will be massive. This could be the turn. This could be the defining moment, but he is going to flash out to safety. Throws back a bit of damage. Elder Drake will fall in favor of OG. Baron up in 12 seconds. Getting this one, too, is going to be crucial. Soaz has burned the ultimate now. That is going to be massive for the fight to come.
But if it's a question if Origen can actually use the power of the Elder Drake to get them in position to contest for the Baron. Maxlor has now spawned. That was the big trigger. He died, so they were able to walk up and take the Elder. Now the Misfits jungler is back in position. Hansama is just going to shred through this.
In Frostguard, there was no right choice. If they left the Elder there, Misfits got it for free, and they would maybe be able to contest the Baron. But now that they've taken the Elder, they have no opportunity to contest this Baron. That's Baron going over to Misfits. For the next few minutes, OG are stronger in the fight with that Baron-empowered, true damage burn. But on the opposite side, Misfits have a very clear runway to just group as 5 and end the game. Once again, comes down to the engage, comes down to finding the damage threats on the side of OG and shutting them down, and that means Patrick at this stage in the game. 4.5 item, Tristana.
And we're backing for items. What do we got?
Retreating. They've got time. Maybe don't want to wait. A minute 30 left on the Elder Dragon buff. Still 3 minutes left on the Baron. So there's a minute and a half where they do not have to worry about fighting into that.
They can also eat up all of the waves, like you said, so as resetting the map, so they're not going to lose any damage on any of their Nexus towers. And I think you're exactly right. They just want to highly respect the power of the Elder and the late game Karthus, Tristana, and even the Zoe, because we did see that Nukeduck was finding some of these snipes that last team fight, how much damage he's doing regardless for how far behind he's been put this game.
So much of that is the magic penetration that he has, just doing basically true damage to a lot of these champions. The inhibitor will respawn. That is the start of the good news for the side of OG.
Means that they can actually leave their base at this point.
2 back-to-back, synced up. One going to respawn for Misfits as well. Have no doubt, though, folks, that a single decisive team fight will end this game, most likely for either side. York with the maiden to tank does set them up nicely to push into the base if they find the opportunity. And you see the damage dealt over the entire game. Hansama, an unsurprising standout, has been clutch on the Kaisa thus far. And you can already see him chunking out cold before the fight even begins.
Like you said, this game will come down to a single team fight. Either squad can really end it at this late a point in the game. So it feels like everyone's just kind of playing on a knife's edge. This match so important for both teams' playoff hopes.
Take a look at the standings. 6-5, 5-6. Something we haven't touched on as much in the heat of what has been a very strategic game. Patrick flirting with disaster when he steps forward to auto-attack Hansama, but the shields from Ivern are just too big. The shield from the Bloodthirster as well. So hard to hit the actual health bar of Hansama.
I mean, Oriana, Ivern, Kaisa, so many shields that can apply to her. Hansama is so free to step forward like this.
After Gorilla's health is gone, Nukeduck continues to land the poke. Hansama trying to find an avenue in. Daisy has been called out. Mithy has already now used the ultimate and the unbreakable. Once that one's down, that is the window of opportunity for Misfits trying to fight. For now, they are just going to settle for the inhibitor. He's just playing this one slow. Able to take that down. May just look for a second. Again, Nukeduck stepping forward, but taking a lot of damage in exchange. Hansama remains untouched. Alfari now trying to find his way into the backside of the fight. They're stepping forward. Patrick remains untouched. He's trying to get some damage down, trying to get something done, but Soaz gets the fear. Input buff from the Tristana keeps her alive. Now immediately Hansama's going to try to fire back, but he's so incredibly low. Eyes on the Tristana. Everything comes down to Patrick. This is his moment. If he can turn this fight for his team, Soaz is stepping forward. He's not going to let it happen. That's the disdain. That's the shutdown. Hansama finds the kill, but at the end of the day, it is Misfits who take the fight, and it'll be Misfits who take the game.
Nothing Patrick could do in that last team fight. You saw it there with the Oriana shield, the Ivern shield on top of it. Hansama just had massive health bars and was able to run forward. We talk about the Juggernaut composition. That was effectively it with Kaisa.
Brutal. They could not do it, but Patrick, he did so much damage, but he just did not have the penetration necessary to get through the tanky body of the Urgot, and man, I saw that early game. I saw that Fed Yorick. I just flashed back to that SK Yorick. I thought there's no way, man, this champion is unstoppable. But the reality is, Misfits were ready for it. They played for the late game. They had the Oriana. They had the Kaisa. They set themselves up for success with these defensive options like the Yorick, and it worked out.
And credit to Soaz, making sure that he was always on point to match whatever pressure point that Alfari was putting on the map. Yeah, the Yorick did manage to trade the bottom inhib for the Baron, but Misfits were able to absorb all of that, still use the Baron offensively every single time, and it was really a macro victory for the Misfits there.
Absolutely, and it feels like OG had a plan, had something in mind, but just weren't able to get a greater lead out of it, and as a result, weren't able to turn it into a game win. We take a chance, though, to look back at that final team fight. Hello, Max Lord. Get the fist bumps, too. Ooh. Cold denied by everyone but Max Lord. Doesn't matter, though. We're into the team fight.
And just take a look at Hansama's positioning here, and at one point he just kind of stands still and just does all of this damage, but his health bar virtually never moves outside of the Karthus ultimate. Finally, Patrick steps up and gets a couple of shots on him, but by then his team is dead. It's just him and Nukeduck.
And just look at that. The man drops to 10%, gets a shield for half of his health bar, and then heals back up to 70 with 2 auto attacks. That is the power of a late game protected AD carry, and you can see it showing through in those damage numbers. 31.8. An absolute machine. Hansama definitely earning this composition with the team, playing around and setting him up for success.
And what's cool here is if Misfits have proven to themselves that they can leave a power pick like Karthus open because they feel that they have the necessary answer with the Ivern pick and the Redemption. Now, normally we do see the Ivern banned in second rotation, at least that's when a lot of those bans have been cropping up in the LEC, but this time around it managed to slip through and it felt like, okay, we know you're going to take the Karthus. There you go. We've got the answer for it, and Misfits have shown their hand.
And of course, we're going to get more insight on this game after the break, as Quickshot is talking to Misfits coach Hussein Mouzi. 2-0 since his return to the stage, drafting and setting this team up for success. And it is a good look for Misfits. Yesterday, I feel like just outdrafted, outplayed. Today, it felt like out-strategied. Is that a word? Out-strategied. I'm going to say out-strategy. That feels like the appropriate term. You're not out-strategized, I've been told by production. That's how you know you really messed up, is when they correct you. After our match of the day, you guys have one thing left to do, and that is vote for your Kia player of the game at LE Sports on Twitter is the place. Maxlor, Febivin, Hansama are your options. We know who's going to win. We do.
Is it Hansama?
Not only is he adorable, he also popped off. He popped off! Crazy game from Hansama. Well, Rogue was without wins. They were at the bottom of the standings. But after the arrival of Finn and Vander, this team is starting to turn things around. Find out if the players can celebrate again as they face off against Splice in our next match.